release the book that Dr. Janki Santoke has written. It's a fascinating book, and I will ask her to help me release it. This is the book. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We navigate through life via our thought processes. It is the lens and the roadmap through which we view and operate in this world. All our experiences and relationships in life depend on how we think. And since our thoughts determine the quality of our lives, they define our problems and achievements as well. So if something is not going right, it makes sense to periodically examine our thinking and readjust our GPS to achieve the goals we seek. When we set our minds on the correct trajectory, the results will always be positive. And this book does just that. How do you know what you know? It analyzes thoughts through a systematic thread which weaves together the ancient Indian theory of knowledge, Vedanta and mythology, Western psychology, logic and literature, to place our lives on the right path to happiness, peace and success. Dr. Janki Santoke is a PhD in philosophy. Remember, we always admire the philosophers, starting with Plato and Aristotle. A scholar of Vedanta and a disciple of Swami Parthasarathy. She delivers lectures, offers retreats and workshops for the public, writes articles for various newspapers. You might have read her on the Speaking Tree in the Times of India. And she also has a YouTube channel. Let's begin by asking Dr. Janki to outline how we should review and analyze our thoughts, and how we can improve on them and thus positively affect our lives.
Okay, thank you. The book actually talks about how to do that, but very briefly, we must first and foremost understand how we are thinking and why that thinking is not thinking. We believe that since a thought is running in my mind, I'm thinking. This need not be thinking at all. This can be absolutely blind. Now, the big question is to know which of my thoughts are being blind and which not. And why this is so critical to know is because when I function blind, there is no way I'm getting a proper result out of this. By proper result, I mean what I wanted to get. There is no proper in the sense of somebody telling me what I should get. But we won't get what we want if we don't know what we are doing. So we need to understand what's going on in our heads. And what's going on in our heads are two distinct kinds of thoughts, which Vedanta calls mind and intellect. Mind means your irrational side. It's your emotions, it's your likes and dislikes, it's all that sort of stuff. And intellect is reason, it's judgment, it's decision. So we have these two types of thoughts. You follow the mind, you'll most likely get yourself into some trouble. And you follow the intellect, you'll most likely get yourself where you're going. Intellect can also make mistakes. But with intellect, there's a possibility of course correction. With mind, well, you start something, you're going to see it through, if that means destroying yourself and everybody around you. So these are the two things that we have to distinguish between. And the book uses Indian epistemology to do that. It tries to figure out where did you get this idea from and whether you should be holding it at all. Otherwise, we keep doing the same thing over and over again, getting the same kind of life, and then saying God did it, and stars did it, and mother did it, and father did it, and mother-in-law did it, and neighbors did it, and government did it, and so many other people have done so many wonderful things in our life. Hello, we are not victims. We are designing our life. And we are designing it through the way we think. So let's just get that thinking straight. And then you have a beautiful design.
Sounds good. Dr. Janki, there was one question I had, and I wanted to know if there is such a thing as instinct or ESP in this paradigm.
What happens is that by instinct, I assume you mean like intuition, that sort of thing, right? So
you
when
have that gut feeling.
Yeah.
I feel I should do this because it's in my gut.
Yeah. So what happens is that when you use your intellect a lot, your intellect starts giving you instant decisions without going through an analytical sort of process. Those kind of things flash on us, and we call them intuition, because you do them and you're going to be right. The point, the difficulty in that is that just because you got an instant thought, it is not really your intuition. So whether it is your foolishness or your intuition is what you need to know, because foolishness will also flash by like that. So how would you know? There is usually a good like rule of thumb kind of to apply, which is that if your intellect, if you know your intellect has thought this thing through many times, knows a lot about it, and you get this so-called intuition in that field, like you're a doctor and you get an intuition about a patient's illness, or you're a mother and you have an intuition about your child, then you know you've been in this field long enough for your intellect to have operated in it quite a lot, and it's probably intuition. But if you get an intuition like this horse is going to come first, then it's probably just our foolishness.
Okay. Interesting. So, in other words, experience then plays a lot of a high role, a serious role in thinking. Experience. Is that what you're saying? Because
not really.
Not really.
The best quote for experience is probably from Mark Twain. He says that a cat having sat on a hot stove will never sit on a hot stove again, but she will never sit on a cold one either.
Okay.
So there's only so much your experience teaches you, because what teaches us is not the experience, but the thought we put into it.
Okay.
People go through the same experience over and over and over and over and over again, learn nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, if you notice, even amongst married couples or any couple, they have the same fight over and over again. It's not like they're having different fights. So it's the same story repeated over and over and over again. So experience is not a teacher. The thought you put in your experience is the teacher.
The key. So in other words, older people are not necessarily wiser.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. So you can have a kid who's wiser than all of us put together.
Yes, certainly.
Rather daunting.
Yes, because what gives you knowledge is how much have you applied yourself to it. If you've applied yourself to it and you are older, then you have that many more years, okay, so you'll be smarter. But if you've not applied yourself and you're 80 years old, you're probably senile.
Oh, okay. Okay. Can emotions undercut correct thinking?
Absolutely. Emotions can derail thinking before you knew that it has done it, it's just gone. I mean, all these great stories of the past, take Shakespeare or, any great classics of the past, that's what they tell us, right? What happened to Macbeth? Why did he have to go and kill a benefactor? He was doing well. The king was rewarding him. He gets into his head this bright notion, I will be king. And then there's just tragedy after that. everywhere. You just think about this. There is a poster boy, without mentioning names, there's a poster boy of Indian executives in the US. He makes a mistake that takes him a few seconds. His whole career is ruined. Just like that. Years and years and years of hard work down the drain.
So in other words, Sundar Pichai has worked it all very well because he's gone from Google to Alphabet.
Yes, I mean, the big thing is, how much is he going to keep his head through the whole thing? If at any point he fails, that's the crash.
Yes, and everyone will be waiting to watch.
Yeah, which is sad.
Which is sad, yes. And the other question I had was, why is one man's reason another's absurdity? For example, I believe in the divine, but I know many others who do not, and they call themselves atheists. How can two intellectuals come to such a dichotomous path of reasoning?
Because at the base of our reasoning is our nature. Our reasoning is in accordance to our nature. So it will never happen that all intellectuals will agree. Scientists don't agree. They don't agree on the findings of, like objective data. And it will not happen. And there's a whole theory of this in Vedanta called 3 Gunas. I don't know, are you all familiar with this concept of the 3 Gunas? So in Vedanta and Sankhya, there is this concept of human thoughts being divided into 3 types of, mental temperaments. The first is called tamas. It's a state of thoughts which are in ignorance, in inertia, in indolence. It's called this ignorance. It's portrayed by black. So everything about tamas is black. Night time is black. Witches wear black. You have dark thoughts. So everything about tamas is like this dark thing. And the second type of thoughts are rajas. Rajas is the state of desire and passion and tremendous mental agitation and stress and all this kind of stuff. It is depicted by the color of red. It's where all the action happens. And sattva is the state of poise, of equanimity, of tranquility, of great clarity of thought. It's usually depicted by white because of purity. So these are the 3 types of thoughts we have. And all of us have them all. I mean, nobody has only one type. But everybody has something predominant. So he's called that, like he's called tamasic or rajasic or sattvic, because he's predominantly that. He has the others as well. Now, a tamasic thinker, thinking will come to a certain type of conclusion. He has no alternative. A rajasic thinker will think. A tamasic person will be rigid, he will be fanatical, he will take a part and believe it to be the whole. He will meet a person once, say one sentence to him and decide what that person is. He will take a part and believe it to be the whole. One Marwadi you met was Kanjus, you'll go for the rest of your life saying Marwadis are, So this is tamasic way of thinking. You see one thing and you come to a conclusion and then you become fanatical about that conclusion. This is tamas. Rajasic people will say, I got angry, but he deserved it. He will think like that. His rajas will make him think like that. He will always justify these sort of things. His intellect will show him that is right. Sattvic people have a real intellect. They can really analyze, discriminate, figure things out, and come to a conclusion. But sattva is of levels, so different levels will come to different conclusions. So that's why you find philosophies are different, science is different, because we are driven by these gunas. Gunas is a classification of our thoughts. So as our nature, we are going to think in that manner. There is nothing anyone can do about that. And once you understand this, you won't get into arguments with anybody, because that is the way the person is. Get it? There's no point arguing, because from where he stands, it looks like that. You can't convince him. There's a quote in English, it says, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still."
Oh, very good. Very good indeed. Then you also have a chapter on Google. And I just wondered, are we smarter than Google, or are we the end result of Google?
Today, basically what this book tries to do is give the entire panorama of knowledge, right? Starting from unfounded beliefs to coming to what truly is knowledge. So when we talk today about the gaining of knowledge, everybody understands this as let's know more. Let's gain more information. This is not knowledge, that's what the book argues.
Right.
It is digested information. It is information that is reflected upon. That is our knowledge. Like, we are at a lit fest. You will no doubt buy so many books. You will read these books. By the time GLF comes next year, would you even remember them? We'd remember only what we have digested. That will become part of our life. The rest is like volatile. It's going to disappear. So, why did we read the book? We were just wasting our time in the sense that it's not even going to be in our memory. Forget anywhere else. Forget actual conversion to action. So, the chapter talks about how we've taken this great collection of information as knowledge. You could be the most well-informed person and your life could be a mess. That's not knowledge. So knowledge has to be that which is able to make you do the right thing at the right time so that your life is the way you designed it to be. That's knowledge. So are we greater than Google means that Google's job is to collect information. We human beings, our job is to have the knowledge to make good lives. So we are not here to ape Google. He's there. Or it's there whenever we want that information.
We need to tap it.
Yeah. Whenever we want to get it.
Any questions for the doctor? Yes. Any questions?
So, like emotional intelligence isn't, you know, everyone talks about EQ and emotional and how important it is from what I understand, it's a lot, your emphasis is on the intellect and not on the emotional, or is the emotions part of the intellect?
The whole focus is on the intellect, but emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, see, these are just words coined here and there. What is an emotional intelligence is directed emotion. What will direct your emotion is the intellect. When your emotion is an undirected, it's undirected, it's emotional stupidity. Okay, so this emotional quotient, having it good, basically means two things, that you have good emotions, you have pure emotions. And those good emotions are well-directed emotions. Otherwise, you could ruin your life and other people's lives by these so-called bad emotions everyone understands, but even by good emotions. Like spoiled children, spoiled pets. Pets are out of control. You know, we offload our emotions on people without discrimination and create this mess that relationships are nowadays. I mean, the people who we cannot live with at all are the people we love the most.
The most difficult to live with, yes.
Yeah, because that's what we're doing. We're not directing the emotion. That's what's happening. It's impossible nowadays for couples to stay together for a long time without fighting. It's impossible.
No. Yeah. Excuse me, I've just finished 50 years of marriage.
No, I don't mean...
Gosh.
I don't mean in years of marriage, just a long time together.
Long time
No,
together.
I mean like how we're sitting together like that.
Yeah.
You spend 5 hours and you're going to
okay.
quarreling.
And each one has to have their own space.
Yes.
Yes.
You have to know, right? When to go apart, when to be together. You have to direct this whole thing.
Yes. But who does the directing, the woman or the man?
With the intellect, whoever has it.
Oh, what if they both do?
Then excellent. Then you have Radha Krishna.
Oh yes, he asked me to read Radha Krishna.
Yeah. No, Radha Krishna means Radha and Krishna.
No, but he was referring, oh yes,
Yeah.
he actually
The
to
perfect
understand
man.
Vedanta,
Yeah.
yeah. Tara, I'm sure you have a question. You can't be sitting over there.
I don't know, she's talking about Radha and Krishna, were they really the perfect couple?
Pardon?
Were Radha and Krishna the perfect couple?
They are depicted as the perfect couple
Why?
for various reasons. What makes for a perfect couple are two things. One is the complete love between them, and the other side of the coin, I shouldn't say two things, but the other side of the coin is perfect detachment. So, you know, there's these stories. The Vedanta tells you these facts of life, the laws, and the mythology tells you all these stories, and you're supposed to get the laws. So here's the story about Radha and Krishna. Krishna apparently threw this party and called all the gopis. And then the gopis went running to Radha and said, Radharani, have you been invited? Krishna is throwing a party. She said, no, I wasn't invited. So she said, see, he's invited all of us. He hasn't invited you. So she turns to them and says, tell me one thing. If you were throwing a party, would you invite yourself?
Yes.
The way it's put, I mean, it's not taught in philosophy, it's just shown to you. This is one incident. Another incident. Krishna has been called. He has to take up his royal duties. He's to go back to his throne. And he's a coward boy. He's been with Radha all this time. And he goes to Radha and tells her, I am a prince. I have been called back to my royal duties. Will you accompany me? I have no way, there's no way I can live this cowherd's life now. My duties call me elsewhere. So please come with me. To which he says, I am a cowherd girl. My duties are here. My life, duties means my life is here. I am not a royal person. I will not go with you. Perfect unison and perfect detachment. Neither pulled. They both lived their own separate lives and were completely one with each other. So that's what makes for the harmony. Even Khalil Gibran says, you know, a relationship is like two pillars. You have to maintain that. You come together, the building collapses. So that's how they're depicting a perfect relationship. Now, because it's story and because it's poetry, they will do all sorts of exaggeration and all sorts of stuff will be added to it. But we have to get to the essence of it.
So the perfect relationship is not in the marriage.
Marriage is a convenient social thing. These are the exaggerations that are given. You know, we don't have to take from it more than it is trying to tell us. To show something, to show how wicked Ravana is, you know, you show him like having 100 heads or 10 heads or something. You don't say, oh, that's impossible, nobody can have 10 heads, you know. So these exaggerations are for those purposes. This mythology sort of does all this storytelling. We don't have to take that. We don't have to say, did Christ really walk on water? The point is not whether he walked on water or not. What are they trying to teach us by saying that? Did manna really fall from the skies? I mean, or did Rama exist or Krishna exist? I mean, these are not the questions from which we understand philosophy. They may not, we don't know. We are not historians. Historians should tell us these things, not for philosophers to talk on it. We are here to understand about life.
Fascinating. Did she? You have something else to say? Oh, no.
It's a very vast canvas.
Pardon?
It's a very vast canvas.
Yes, it is.
Canvas of mythology.
Incredible, yes. No, the book is incredible.
So I have a question, Dr. Janki, that everything that you spoke about, being intellectual, thinking things through, most of this is not taught to us in our daily educational curricula. How would you advise young people, we have some of them here, to actually plunge into this line of thinking?
The onus is really on them now. Here is a book. Try and use it as a springboard if that helps you. If it doesn't help you, find your own ways of doing it. But it is critical that we learn to think. Otherwise, we will get the same results that all the non-thinkers have ever got, which is stress and bitterness and agitation and eventually ICU. Basically, we are ruining things for ourselves. We have to get it straight, and we have to understand that the buck stops here, nowhere else. Nobody is responsible for my life. I am responsible for my life. And if I'm responsible for my life, and if I have to make it right, I'll have to first figure it out in my head. So here is a book. I hope it gives you some tools to do that. But if you find that it didn't, never mind. Find whatever tools you can. Even a little thing that you do to get the thinking right is going to give long-term huge benefits.
It's a visionary thought, yes.
So,
The book is going to be sold out here for
$490.
It says
Oh,
$490 on
400, sorry.
it says $490 on the book, but you can get it for $400, and if you have Kindle, you can download it for 99 rupees.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So I urge all the kids to try and figure this out. Figure out their thoughts, because you're at a stage where you have to, when you're planning your future, your career, and what have you. And don't go by what mama says, you have to do this or you have to do that. Think for yourself. We have to get out of that. Think for ourselves, even if it means upsetting the equilibrium.
Yes, only thing that we have to watch out for is there are two ways in which our minds function. One is we get influenced by other people. And the second way is we get influenced by our own desires and moods and things like that. You know, in Vegas, one alcohol-filled night, and they propose to somebody, whoever happens to be standing next to them, and they go and get married.
But fortunately, the divorce court is not too far away.
Yeah, Americans
So you get married today and divorced tomorrow.
Yeah, Americans are very organized. They don't like fuss. So yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So we must watch out for even internal stuff that's taking us wrong, not just external stuff that's taking us wrong.
We must thank Doctor for her absolutely fantastic talk, and she made it all so simple, because I had a little difficulty myself trying to figure out the book, but now that she has explained it, it's so much easier. So please give her a round of applause. Thank you. And hopefully she'll come back again, or to your universities or to your colleges, because this would be most useful for all of you. I'm talking to the kids now. Okay?